Check it out. This is an FPV gimbal, and it's awesome because no matter what I do with it, the little FPV camera on there stays stabilized just about all the time. So it's actually really similar to my big camera gimbal, except it's light enough to put on a... Let me show you. Alright, in this review, we're going to do an unboxing. We'll talk about specs, how much it costs, where you can buy it, how to put it together, the good and the bad. Make sure to hit like and subscribe for me because you hate boring reviews, and let's get into the unboxing. First thing, let's get this thing open and see what we got. Right out of the gate, we've got a quick start guide, which is actually really helpful. Next, we have our wires and accessories package, a carbon fiber mounting plate, and a quality control certificate. Now we're pulling out the gimbal itself and giving it a quick look over. I see that they sent me the 03 version of this gimbal, and that's an important note. They have other versions too, like one for the Caddx Walksnail system. The camera cable is ran inside of the body of the gimbal, so you have to decide which version you want since the cable is not easily changed. Here's the USB-C connector that you use to update the gimbal and change its settings. And these are the connectors that let you power and control the gimbal from a receiver. I'll touch more on that later. Let's get this review moving again and jump into the assembly. So the very first thing we need to do is disassemble the camera. That way, the cable that's built inside of the gimbal can connect to it, and on the other end, we'll connect it to the video transmitter. There we go. Got the original camera cable removed from the 03 air unit. Now to remove it from the camera housing. Now we need to remove the camera bracket from the gimbal. I'm making sure to keep close track of all of the screws that I take out of the gimbal so that I don't mix any up. Now that we got the bracket, it's pretty self-explanatory from here. Just get the cable from the gimbal, slide it through the bracket, through the camera housing, and then screw the camera back together. This part is definitely a little bit finicky, but you can get through it in about 5 minutes. Honestly, this thing is too much fun. When I first powered it up, it was like a little robot looking at me, and I just had a ball messing with it. I'm gonna flash the specs up on the screen here really quick, and then we'll dive into them in more detail, but you can skip that part if you want to just see me setting it up and sending it on the car. Okay, so here's the dimensions and the weight. And I actually weighed this in a little bit heavier, about 4 grams more than what they have listed. So what they mean by gimbal angles is how far the gimbal can tilt in any one direction. You can darn near look straight down with this thing, but you can only look up about 45 degrees. Yaw being at 135 degrees means that you can almost look behind you as long as you have the wide field of view set on your camera. This thing can tilt side to side, aka roll 45 degrees, which is really good. And you can control this gimbal using either S-Bus, PWM, or Mavlink. I'm going to be using PWM today for my normal RC car controller. There's a quick look at its mounting dimensions. And for the camera, it needs to be a 20mm or a 19mm camera. Nothing bigger, nothing smaller. Oh, and almost forgot, 12 volt to 18 volt is its voltage range. It has to be powered from this. I'm going to be using a 3-cell LiPo for mine. Something that I didn't see mentioned on their specs page was that the gimbal can do both upright and downright positions. Yeah, I don't know what to call it either, but this mode is perfect for a bigger drone or maybe an RC plane. But since we're doing it with an RC car today, I'm going to show you in the upright position. Also, this gimbal is fully controllable from your radio. We can totally set this up with head tracking, and if you want to see that, tell me in the comment section to make another video about that. I've been kind of avoiding head tracking on my channel because it's a lot to set up without a really good option like a gimbal. Okay, I felt like I had to get into updating the firmware on this gimbal because there are a few features that it was lacking when I got it, and HEQ was really cool about sending a firmware that corrected these issues. I'm showing you here how to go to their website, what to click on to download, and how to get their app up and running. And if you have to replay this part to get it going, just press the J button on your keyboard to rewind. It's a good little trick. Or if you're watching this on mobile, you can double tap the left side of your screen. So after we got everything downloaded, we can go ahead and run the G-Port Assistant. But first, we'll have to unzip the folder that we downloaded from the site. I just right click and choose Extract All. I make sure that it's going to my downloads folder. Now we just scroll down and click the G-Port Assistant app. Now on my PC, Windows Defender pops up and makes me choose More Info and then Run Anyway. Yours may look a little different, or you might not get a pop-up at all. An important note is you need to have the gimbal powered up before you connect it with a USB cable and making changes in the configurator. I'm using my O3 Armor, which I soldered the power wires from the gimbal to. From here, you need to make sure that you select the right COM port, and yours might not actually be COM port 6 like mine, and then click Open. After you do, you can click Read Setup and it'll show you all the settings that are currently on the gimbal. In this section, you can choose the FPV mode. And I actually need to give a quick note about this right away. HEQ sent the firmware over that allows you to lock the yaw axis, which greatly helps in FPV. Since there's no stabilization on yaw, it's not going to be lagging in the corner as the gimbal tries to look left and right. This is something I reached out to them about within a day of receiving the gimbal and testing it. And within a couple days, I actually had an updated firmware that fixed it. In order to get the FPV mode working, we have to be updated to the latest firmware. First, choose Select File and then go to the Downloads folder, where we downloaded the updated firmware. Then select the firmware file and click Open. From there, click Start Upgrade, and you'll be good to go. Now I do have to give an update on how well the firmware worked, but I'll do that later in the video when we go over the good and the bad. Now before you can test anything for real, you need a good control subject. So we're pulling out Old Faithful, the laser nut. Now there's no gimbal attached here, and you can see that on this paved road, it's actually really smooth. But we're gonna come up on some rocks here and it gets a little bad, but we don't really see how bad it is until we hit grass. I've gotta slow down or I'm gonna get sick here. So now we have the G-Port gimbal mounted on the fire team. And our first obstacle is a curb, and it actually handles it really well. Now this is before I had the FPV mode turned on, and when I turn, you can see that there's this bit of delay. This is because the gimbal is trying to stabilize the left and right movement, and we really don't like that with FPV cars or FPV drones. So you can see me wallowing really bad here left and right, and it really shows just how important it is to have that FPV mode turned on. Now, all in all, on paved roads, things don't look too bad. But I have to get into an issue that I've found with the G-Port gimbal, and that is when you go to take it off-road or when you go to high speeds, you get this left and right jitter that is absolutely unacceptable. Now I do want to say that I did reach out to HEQ and they want to fix this problem. They have been super communicative and I really appreciate how well they've responded to everything that I've said to them. Check the description because I will put an update in there if they have resolved the twitching issue. And I do want to throw in a quick high-speed run so you can see how well this gimbal actually handles on the pitch and roll axis. I'm braking really hard here and it did handle it great. Okay, no joke, I've been working on this review for over a month now. And that's because I hate doing reviews unless I'm sure I've tested everything and it's a good product. I really do believe that this is the best FPV gimbal available right now, but we need to have that firmware to fix the shaking on the yaw axis. I left an email down in the description so that you can email HEQ. So as always, I like to bring a little bit of education even with my reviews. So today I'm inviting you to watch the videos from a good friend of the channel, Jipper RC. He's been showing people how to build FPV gimbals for a really long time, and he does a great job of it. Full tutorials. Just be forewarned, it is a serious process, taking hours and hours of your time. And that's the reason I haven't really featured gimbals on my channel before, is because they are really technical, even for somebody like me. But if you want to get into that, check out his link in the description. There's also an affiliate link in the description that will take you to the gimbal and a discount code to get 10% off using Chad Rain's FPV. Now I just want to show off a little bit of a range test with the laser nut. This video was stabilized in post and is not using the gimbal, but in my goggles it's actually really shaky until I get on this smooth surface.